Welcome to the Putnam Valley Board of Education Business Class Work Session of February 28th, 2019. I can't believe tomorrow is March. Please stand and join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business I'd like is a resolution to approve the minutes of the work session business meeting of February 7th, 2019, and the special business meeting of February 21st, 2019.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. All right, now I'm going to ask or inform our fellow board members that I'm making an executive decision to rearrange the order of tonight's agenda. And we are going to jump right to the first order of new business.
Just ask if anyone has a comment, please, the public, ask the public, please.
Oh, does anybody have any comment on any agenda items at this time? Thank you.
Yes, there's somebody.
Okay, where are the tissues? Who's right up there? They have tissues.
He's coming.
I can't. Where's the camera?
Good luck, Daddy. You are going to be a great superintendent. I know that you can, because you are the best at not giving snow days. You're the best at everything positive. I can't believe you are the superintendent.
I'd like to step down from my position of board president and give it to Brady Luft, please, if I possibly could. Well, let's go through let's be official. I can't find it. Mr. Ferraro, would you read the first agenda?
I became a doctor? When did that happen?
Mister.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby appoints Dr. Jeremy Luft as Superintendent of Schools of the Putnam Valley School District for the period of time commencing on July 1st, 2019, and terminating on June 30th, 2022, at an annual compensation of $235,000 effective July 1st, 2019, and through June 30th, 2021. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes its president to execute an agreement with Dr. Luft, which sets forth the terms and conditions of his employment as superintendent of schools during the time period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022, a copy of which agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting as document number 134/19.
Second.
Questions or comments? I know I do. So Dr. Luft is following some fairly large or small shoes, depending if you're looking at size or impact of Dr. Wills. And Dr. Wills, if anybody knows her, she's always thinking. So she used to go to various curriculum meetings, and she kept hearing these intelligent comments coming from this one gentleman and would ask herself, who is that, who is that? So when it was time to create a director of curriculum and instruction, but which Dr. Wills called innovative instruction, she reached out to Dr. Luft. But in her planning mind, she saw that this could possibly be part of a succession plan. It is an important part, it is a main role of the Board of Education to appoint a superintendent and to do so in a thoughtful way. So we brought somebody in and then we put him under a microscope and stared at him for 2 years and watched him rise to the occasion, watched him meet many, many different challenges and show what we're really looking for, that is a passion for education, compassion for students. He might actually cry more than I do at various events. Commitment to positive results and outcomes, and a creative and flexible leadership style. So we thought we had a winner, but you know, we're only us, we're easy, we loved them, but we reached out to BOCES as we would for any superintendent position, and we asked them to enter their process and do everything they would normally do, and then interview Dr. Luft and tell us whether they needed to interview some other candidates or just bring Dr. Luft. And they said, without any reservation, they recommended him highly. He would be a finalist in any race. And in fact, a very good friend of mine called me this afternoon. He was at Southern Westchester BOCES and said, poor New Rochelle, they're not as lucky as Putnam Valley. They didn't have a candidate waiting for them. So for anybody who wonders if this was a process, it absolutely was, but the most important part of the process is watching the style and the leadership. And because I wasn't entirely sure what to say, I asked Brady what I should say about why his father should be superintendent, and he answered, because he can do it. And that really is all I have to say. So does anybody have anything else they would like to add? So without further ado, I would love to say, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Yeah, we're going to make him speak, too. Get used to that podium, Dr. Luft.
I was going to try to be fancy and memorize all my words, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. So I'm going to cheat and read a little bit. So, first of all, I don't cry at every event. I don't know where that rumor
Not
started.
every event.
I may cry tonight, but not every other event. So I'd like to start by expressing my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Board of Education for providing me the opportunity to lead the district that I've benefited so greatly from. This entire process has been truly humbling and an exciting experience for me. When I decided to apply for that Director of Learning and Innovation and lots of other stuff added to the title, 2 years ago, I was unaware of this succession planning, and never in my dreams did I imagine I would have the opportunity to lead the Putnam Valley School District as superintendent. Putnam Valley has always been more than the location of my schooling. This community has truly been an extension of my family for 40 years. My mother, who is here tonight, still lives in town. Having raised 4 boys in Putnam Valley, there's almost an entire generation of Putnam Valley residents that know at least one, if not all, of the Luft boys. In fact, my father's name is memorialized on the dugout at the town park to this day. As I begin this next phase of my career, I'm very much looking forward to continuing all of the great work that is already happening here in Putnam Valley. Having spent the last year and a half simply trying to keep up with Dr. Wills, I appreciate the enormity of the task at hand. A couple of years ago, Putnam Valley coined the phrase PV Rising, and I truly believe that we are a district on the rise. Putnam Valley has an amazing group of administrators, teachers, and professional staff that are dedicated to the success of all students. As superintendent of schools, it will be a priority of mine to ensure that all students are safe and secure, socially and emotionally well, artistically and athletically enriched, and academically challenged. Thank you for your support, confidence, and partnership.
Don't you love board meetings?
You guys can all go home now.
Okay, so we are going to go back to our order. And I actually should say one more thing. For those of you in the audience who are not here tonight, a part of the process was asking Dr. Luft to create an entry plan or a transition plan. And the first thing he said was meeting with various members of the community and get their input. So there will be many opportunities, both this year and next, for that to occur. And next week, we're having, we're having a listening hour at 5:45?
Yes.
Yes, 5:45 to 6:45.
On Thursday.
On Thursday, prior to next week's board meeting. Okay. My password died.
And Now, we're done with the trivialties, and
Now
we're
that we-
going to go into budget talk.
Oh, yeah, now that we've hired a superintendent. Okay. So, Mr. Spittle, are you up first? That's lovely.
This is what it says up here. I figured that was a good.
So our next,
I figured out.
our
Must
next
be.
agenda is moving into our final, I believe our final department budget presentations?
Tonight is our final set of presentations. There are 3 of them, I believe.
Okay. All right. Take it away, Mr. Spittle.
Okay, here to talk about the operations, maintenance, and transportation budget. Here's the staffing. The Director of Operations and Transportation is funded across 2 budget lines, operations and maintenance and transportation. There is 1.4 clerical, 1 head custodian at the high school, middle school, and this is proposed for the next year. And currently, there is a head custodian at the elementary school. Ray just got promoted to that position. So he wasn't head last year. There's 4 custodial workers, 9 cleaners, and I have 3 grounds slash custodial workers on here. There had been 2. There are 2 presently. This represents an increase of 1. After analyzing for the last 7 months how things operate here and expenditures, I think that this position can be more than offset by us being able to do more work in-house that we now subcontract out. The grounds custodial position allows flexibility in days worked, so I can actually put two workers on a Saturday to accomplish some of the work that we can't get done during the week, some extra work, and I have my eye on a lot of things that would cost money, significant money to do outside that we can do inside with the people with the skills and the equipment that we have. Contractual expenses. Whoops, Maureen, I told you I need your help.
Just click on OK.
Oh, okay. There we go. This is, some of this was cut and pasted from last year. It includes utilities, fuel oil, safety compliances, rubbish, propane, special projects, service contracts, upkeep of buildings, grounds, and equipment and systems. BOCES services, which generates state aid for the following year if we use BOCES for things. Safety risk management and IntelliPath regional telephone service. Fuel, oil, and propane are purchased from state contract. It's estimated that we use about 44,000, actually, I just checked it today, it's about 43,000 something gallons of fuel oil at the elementary school campus. We are realizing significant reduction in oil use as a result of newly installed geothermal system. This is very exciting to me. Every time we get the bill, I look at it to see if we get a reduction in oil use because we're not getting the full savings from the geothermal yet because we still have to put windows in there, but we're seeing reduction. Next year's budget should reflect a significant reduction. We're thinking about 30,000 gallons of oil a year we should save with the geothermal replacing a lot of the oil burner use over there. And further reduction is expected through our HVAC control system. This is something in the EPC that I didn't understand until I started getting involved in EPC. Is going to have probably the second highest impact on our carbon footprint reduction is the HVAC control system. Believe it or not, the amount of fresh air, the amount of air taken in and the fan speeds and all that save almost as much as changing all the LEDs out as far as energy consumption here. And I'm just going to take a minute to talk about the EPC because you're going to see it in other slides here. You know, I was talking with with Jeannie yesterday, and then about how to tell more folks in town about how energy efficient we are, and I was talking with Con Ed Solutions this morning, and I said, is there a district in New York State that does a better job with energy efficiency than we do? And they said, I don't know that there is. So I think we're one of the leaders in New York State here. We don't use any oil on this campus here. We're about to reduce our oil use at the elementary school, like I said, by about 30,000 gallons. And then the other upgrades we've done are going to significantly reduce our electric usage. So it's something we could be proud of. And I'd like to ask the board if we can do a full-blown presentation just on the EPC when I get it further down the road to completion, because I think it's an exciting thing for people to and we don't have enough time tonight. So maybe April or May, I'll be ready. Large service contracts are obtained through a bid process and requests for proposals, RFPs. Upkeep of buildings and equipment is generally serviced by time and material contracts that are obtained through a bid process. Materials and supplies, these including cleaning supplies, et cetera, are purchased through BOCES bids and through state contracts, mostly through BOCES bids. High school facility improvements, 2018-19. This is what we've completed since I've been here. Some of it was started prior. The STEM room in the high school with safety, air filtration, and vacuum systems. We're able to leverage our custodial staff here to do the air filtration and vacuum systems here, and that saved us a bunch of money there. High school library, as you can see, new carpet and furniture in here. New floor covering in the PAC. This is was basically re-epoxied. The new high school sensory room was completed. Student drop-off area, which I'm intimate with. You see me out there every morning for the later start time. And the preventive maintenance on HVAC systems. This is something that Mr. Bellino, my predecessor, started, which is really important for the district. We had gone for about 20 years with just basically changing belts and filters in our HVAC system. We were starting to see significant and unexpected failures that were very expensive. And the preventive maintenance really went through every piece of equipment. There's over 100 heating systems here on this campus, and worked them over and made sure that they were up to par, giving them tune-ups basically, for lack of getting into more detail. So we're hoping that preventive maintenance will avoid some of the spikes in costs in our HVAC systems ongoing. Security vestibule downstairs, it used to be where the piano is now, and now that's working out really well. It's given us a much higher level of security, but we're still able to maintain a welcoming atmosphere here. The cafeteria upgrades to accommodate the block lunch. We put the doors and such in there. And the stuff in green here is part of the EPC. This is, I made it green for a reason. Solar panels have been installed on all of the flat roofs on this campus, and at high school, here's what we're talking about. These at the high school and middle school should be energized and producing electricity within 2 to 4 weeks. They're all finished and inspected. We're just waiting on NYSEG to give us the okay to flip the switch. LED lights have been installed throughout the school. This is cutting our electric usage in about half. And an upgrade to our HVAC control system, which I mentioned before, is having a significant increase, providing significant savings in our energy usage. Middle school, we've upgraded the art room. The security vestibule, we did the same thing as we did here in the high school. That's worked out real well for security and maintained a nice welcoming hallway there. upgraded door locks throughout the middle school to have consistent key locks for security and safety. The all room, we frosted the glass in there. We started to use that all room for classrooms, and it wasn't designed for classrooms. So, yep. So, Mr. McCarty asked me to take a look at that for security. So we frosted the glass, and we also didn't want the kids in the hallway distracting the kids in the class. We also upgraded the outdoor recess area behind the building, basically took the kids from having recess out in the parking lot where they used to. It's worked out well, mostly. A little too much mud comes into school now, which I'm trying to address. HVAC in the gym water pump, the over next door was broken. We had to install a new water pump, so we have consistent heat there now. Preventive maintenance, just like I said in the high school. The green stuff, we've upgraded the HVAC control system, the solar panels, and the solar wind pole that everybody's asking, that thing outside that spins around. That's actually the curriculum piece of the EPC that is going to supply data on energy production from wind and solar into an interface that we're going to be able to supply teachers and kids with students with data that we're working on now. I'm actually going to try to push that data into a student interface TV like we have at the middle school here at the high school as well, and to show students how the wind and sun are producing energy. Also on that same topic, the solar on the roofs has an interface that supply data on solar, so we can really have the science teachers get a little deeper into how solar works and how energy is transformed from the sun. So next, elementary school. This is a bunch of outside stuff here, which was fun for me. Wanted to try to provide a little more access to nature there. We cut trails down to the pond and one back behind the school to a nice little plateau where they can do small group lessons back there. It's about a 100-yard walk, which is really kind of cool. We did a shade sail over the outdoor classroom that provides sun after we had to cut all those trees down that were constantly falling. So we trimmed the trees back and put a sail up, and was used in the fall. Teachers seemed to like that. We replaced this was the emergency project we talked about the last time I was before you folks. We were able to successfully replace the failing HVAC system in the new gym, and not just get the heat working again, but actually we'll have air conditioning, which I'm praying the moving up ceremony will be like 98 degrees outside, so we can show off our new HVAC there. And then the green stuff, we have solar in a transportation building there, which is currently producing electricity. The new geothermal under the field up top there is up and running and producing, and that's what's really reducing the oil use at that building by about 60%. LED lighting throughout, and we have another solar wind pole over there, and that thing really cranks because we put it on near the flagpole out there. It's just kind of out on top of the hill, and it seems to be always spinning, so I can't wait to see what that's producing. And it has obviously the same capabilities for curriculum as the one here. Back to transportation. Director of Transportation, that's me. I didn't know this was going to be as big a part of my job as it is, but it is. We have head bus driver and 17 clerical drivers, mechanics, and monitors that are our staff. We're going to have 3 drivers retire. There is a shortage of drivers out there, so if anybody knows somebody interested in driving, please contact us. We really would love, we need drivers, so they're in high demand. And we're not we have a lot of uncertainty as to how next year is going to go with transportation, but I am working with the staff to really analyze the transportation capabilities we have with the staffing and equipment, and working to try to leverage that staff and equipment to maximize savings in transportation with whatever contractor we have next year. Transportation vendor, this is our outside vendor for transportation that provides us with 20 large buses, 6 minivans, and helps with sports runs. We do shared transportation. We have a cooperative agreement with these districts. I won't go through them. Right now, we're really just cooperating mainly with Lakeland, but we have an agreement that if we need services in their districts or they need it in ours, that we can share, so we can reduce expenses in the region here. Transportation expenses includes the equipment, purchase and installation of bus radios, et cetera. Contractual expenses, including tolls, fingerprinting, mileage, consultants, vehicle insurance. I won't go through all that stuff. And materials and supplies, including gasoline. This fluctuates obviously with the price, but we do purchase the fuel through a state contract, and it's at the town hall. That's it. Any questions?
So in the number point, can we assume that we're planning for a possible increase in transportation costs for next year as we look at what our contract is going to look like and those kinds of things?
We're concerned. Yeah, we're looking at it hard. It's the topic of conversation daily. We're trying to. We don't know how next year's going to look. We'll do everything we can to keep it down, and that's why we're really analyzing what our capabilities are here in case the costs go up in certain aspects of the contractual expense, so that we can try to mitigate that somewhat. Okay. Anybody else?
Pretty much it. I just wanted, Mr. to make sure, first of all, thank you for all you've done in the very short time you've been in this position, but also, can you extend from us, I don't think you can underestimate how hard the role of a bus driver is.
Yeah.
You're the first authority member the minute the children wake up and see you, and you're the only one alone, and your back's to them, and you have to keep their safety. So it is a very valued position, and please make sure they know that we believe that.
Yeah.
So.
But it's, but we don't want to scare any new bus drivers off. It's not, it's a good
It's a great job. You can set the day of a child off
It's a
with
great
your
job.
smile. It is.
Yeah.
It is a
All
great
right,
job.
thank you.
Okay. I think you're next.
I guess.
Good evening. So I'm here to present the special education budget. You'll see that there are not many changes, but we are changing programs within our district, even though we're not changing the amount of faculty and staff that we have. So I'll talk a little bit about both. So I wanted to give you just an overview of some of our out-of-district placements over the years. I think it's really important for me to talk about this because some of the needs that we've seen over the years, especially in the past couple of years, in terms of our out-of-district placements, they're starting to rise, and that is because of mental health concerns in many of our students that need really highly specialized programs. So we are keeping an eye on that, and we're also looking at ways in which Is it a possibility for us to create some types of alternative programs here within our district, and where do we do that, and what does that look like? So we are exploring options, and I'm also working with BOCES, our local BOCES, to see if they have any options to partner with us. So I am looking at that. But overall, our numbers are fairly consistent. It's really those last two years, that really have shifted for us, have been bumped up. We did have in 2013-14, that was our last really high number. But the past 2 years we've had, and I use October 1st as a snapshot because that's what the state uses to capture all of our data. So even though we have more students than that out right now, by the time students graduate at the end of the year, or some move in, some move out, so we use October 1st as a snapshot. So that we're keeping an eye on. Our staffing needs are pretty much the same. We're really making no changes. The only difference is the behaviorist used to come through BOCES, but now we have hired our own behaviorist, and that's at a 0.45. It's a part-time position. And instead of being on the BOCES line, so it's really not a change in budget. It really is a change in where that line comes from. And then teaching assistants, we have 34 students, but 34 teaching assistants. 20 of those 34 are for special education. So they're not all for special education, but about approximately 20 of them are for special education. We have 4 teaching aides, and 2 of them are for special education, 2 of them are for general education. And then 26.2 teachers, special education teachers. There was a shift from 27. At the end of last year, we anticipated 27, but we moved 0.8 of that to general education services. 0.4 is to our FACS classes at the middle school, and a 0.2 is here at the high school with Mr. Danko, his position. And the clinicians are the same. We are recommending, as you know, in Fran's budget, an additional school counselor. That isn't reflected in my budget, but that's really for the board to consider. And then the TAs, I'm moving forward with 34, but as you know, our CSEs haven't even begun. They're just beginning. Our Committee on Special Education meetings, they're just beginning. So until that whole process is done, I may decrease. It's not likely that will increase, but it is, the possibility always exists that will decrease. What I did want to show you is the TA request form, because I know that 20 TAs sounds like a lot in special education, but when you look at, we have 236 classified students. So 20 TAs really is not an exorbitant amount at all of TAs. But I know that, sometimes it can seem like that. But for every student that has a TA that is requested for them, the teachers have to fill out the one-to-one form, and a one-to-one request form or a 2-to-1 request form, and they have to justify, I'll show you the rest of the form, each level of the student performance, where they are, where they expect them to be, and goals that that are expected to help remove the aid or the assistant from the student. So it's a lengthy form, and it takes a lot of thought and a lot of work, and we expect that we really understand why those needs are so significant that students need that type of support, and then we go through each period of the day and when they can be independent and when they can't, and what that supervision looks like. So it's not just really a haphazard, oh, this child needs an aid, or this child needs support. It is really thoughtfully done and carefully done, and a lot of work goes into it. And then besides this form, the teachers have to create goals, and the goals are directly related to the expectation of a child becoming more independent. And then we're going to continue with related services, which is on the special education continuum, counseling services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. We have an array of our services, both in K through 12. Most of the speech services are given between the elementary and middle school, but there are still some students that need support at the high school level. And OT and PT, while yes, they work on all of those physical skills directly related to academic work, we also, you would be shocked at how much work goes on self-regulation and helping students to really be able to cognitively both control their physical aspects of themselves, but also their executive functioning, which is a huge part of being able to be successful in school. So they do a lot of work in that area. And our resource room is given daily. It's a 5-to-1 ratio, and the mandate is for 5 days a week because it's a minimum of 3 hours a week. And that's in a small group of instruction. Our consultant teacher, direct and indirect services, direct consultant teacher services are sort of push-in services that you would see into a classroom or into some educational environment where it's direct services to students. The indirect services is usually for, let's say, a chorus teacher or a general education teacher who has a student with a disability in their classroom. That special educator will modify the instruction, help them understand the goals, help them collect data, things like that. And then integrated co-teaching, which we have in kindergarten through grades 12. I would say that most of our students at this point are in integrated co-teaching classes, and we have done a lot of work in the area of co-teaching, and you really walk into co-teaching classrooms now and you see a lot of movement. You see the class split up often into stations, or you'll see them split into 2 different groups. And we have really moved mountains in terms of how we sort of break down those barriers for students with disabilities in general education. And I think that the benefits that we're seeing are significant. And then the specialized class setting, we do continue to have smaller class placement for students with multiple disabilities, whether it's autism, severe speech and language delays, cognitive delays, and any kind of intellectual delays. And our students are in these programs. Almost never are they in there all day. There's always some part of their day that they are included, whether that's in specials or in history or in science. Like we do a fantastic job. I have to say the teachers do a fantastic job with figuring out where in the day students can be included. And then some new and ongoing initiatives. The state has come out with different pathways to graduation that allow students different options. It's kind of convoluted, I will say that. It's like trying to figure out a puzzle of this score, that score, and how. But what I will say is that it really affords students who work really hard, who achieve credits, but may struggle on an exam. It allows some flexibility so that they can achieve a diploma and go out into this world and be successful, because we know that these students can go out into this world and be productive members of society and contribute greatly. UDL training, that's Universal Design for Learning, that really is about looking at all gen ed classrooms, looking at special ed classrooms, all classrooms, and really figuring out what is the barrier to learning. How do we figure out how to meet the needs of students in general education, and figuring out, it could be something as simple as, if a student has a reading disability, but yet their comprehension is really strong and they're able to understand information and process information, but they might have difficulty reading words. Okay, so what technology do we have to help them listen to readings as we work on the actual reading skills so that their comprehension can continue to progress at an average to above average rate like usually happens. So it's really breaking down and finding ways that students can access the curriculum. Refining our co-teaching practices. How are we doing? What do students think about it? I think it's really up to us now to start to look and ask our children and ask our students how do you like it? How is it working? Like what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Really just evaluating ourselves in our co-teaching practices. And then training for functional behavioral analysis, and that really is when you're looking at doing FBAs, that's what they're called, you're looking at what is the function of a behavior. Behaviors always have a function. Sometimes they're attention seeking, sometimes they're just inattentive, sometimes there's always a purpose behind a behavior, so we really look to see what is the function of the behavior, because if we can understand the function of the behavior, we can often help change and reshape the behavior. And then the behavior plans really come from doing a good functional behavioral assessment. And then last, but I would say probably most significantly, is social emotional learning, and how do we embed that into our curriculum, and how do we help our students who we see really struggling with mental health concerns and are exposed to so much through social media, which really, we're really seeing the studies coming out now, looking at the result of that, and how do we help all students. So that's really, in the end, that's a big one for us in the coming years. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple. When Fran showed me like the new commissioner's regulations,
Yes.
it looked to me like it would dramatically change our clinical staff, or our
You mean with the
support
school
staff,
counselor position?
yeah.
Yes.
But you feel like other than that, the rest of it, we have enough of?
So, I mean, I think that we certainly need an additional school counselor, I think, with the changing regulations. But not only with the regulations, I think that we're seeing it driven by our students and their needs. I think that having that extra support will sort of reshape, especially at our middle school, the proactive work we can do. And instead of sort of being so reactive, getting in there and doing proactive work into classrooms, helping teachers, helping articulate sort of a K6, K8, program for our students.
We're also, we have, in our schools this week, we had, they call it an audit, a guidance audit, but it's, it's an assessment.
It's really just an assessment.
What are our folks doing right now? And how does that, and the plan that our guidance counselors put together for us, how does that compare with what is required and what would be best for our students? And the consultant not only interviewed our personnel, our guidance and our clinical personnel, but also
Students, teachers.
and teachers. So we feel that we will get a report, and that's what we're hoping to look at with the board, a report on, what is there, what could be, what should be, what might be in the future, and, it can be a step-by-step process,
Is
and
it
that's what
more,
we're looking at.
Linked, like K to 12, rather
Yes.
than elementary's doing this?
It will
middle
be
school's
more of an
doing this?
articulated
Yes. And
clinical, yes.
there will be more work in the classroom. That is the piece that we don't have really in place.
I think it's
A
training for
curriculum.
teachers and really embedded in the curriculum. What we started to do, I've been attending with some of our colleagues, with some guidance counselors, with teachers, with other administrators. Jeanette's on this team, really outlining a social emotional curriculum. What we did is really where we started is putting down everything K-12 that we do. And then sort of backfilling, looking at like, okay, where are our gaps? Where do we have our gaps? What do we do in the classroom? How do we train teachers to really look and be aware of mental health issues and how to address them in a manageable way? Because when you have, 20 22 kids, 24 kids. How do you do that? What does that look like for you? And really figuring out how to support teachers really on that first line of, and monitors. You know, we talked a lot about that. You really can't forget, like you talked about bus drivers. I mean, they are often the first line of defense and our eyes and ears for everything, and monitors. And the work that our TAs do is sometimes really, I'm always fascinated, like how much they know, how much they come with, and what they've done before we even are made aware of some issues. So it's really about a school community responding to what we're seeing that our kids need and that what our students need.
You know, in talking to the consultant, she had been at already had been at the elementary school and she was very, very impressed with the character
She really was.
program we have.
Our
which
character ed program
yeah,
with our
which
diversity.
is an articulated program, and she was really impressed with how that worked. It was a classroom program. So there are things going on that we have to see what is going on and where are the places, as Natalie mentioned, that we're
can
missing.
improve.
And Natalie and her team have been in this strategic planning workshop.
And we will present to the board sometime
It's
probably in
very helpful.
April or May, sort of a strategic, long-term plan on how we're going to address a lot of the concerns we're seeing.
And the ruler program we're doing is K-12. So that's we're starting to look at this. How do we
And actually, I see it so much in classrooms now. It's amazing. Where I saw one student. She was like, expressing, and she used the sort of Yale ruler, and she said, I'm going into the red zone, and really caught herself, and then talked herself, and she said, okay, I'm in the blue zone now. So really helping children self-identify their own emotions earlier on. There's so much with social media that children are exposed to that they're not developmentally ready for. But it is our world. It is a changing world, and it has changed so drastically and so quickly, and it has come with a lot of repercussions that we're seeing every day. So it's really helping children to learn in this new world and helping them figure out how to deal with their emotions and how to navigate this new world, this new technology world that we live in. That's really the truth.
Okay, if you go back to your, it was
Sure.
the second slide, the number of students, middle school, elementary school, middle school.
Out of district?
Yeah.
Kids, students, yep. There we go.
Okay. In my simple head, I would track kids down, because kids that were at the elementary school move to the middle school, but they don't every year. I'm just wondering what, they don't seem to, can we predict? Do kids come in and out? How is this?
A lot of the students that are at the high school level, I find move into the district and they're already out of district.
Okay.
So there is definitely that. But as students get older, and usually their emotional needs become more of a challenge, I see that as an area where we often have to recommend therapeutic support programs. I think that
So it's really hard to predict then?
it's very hard to predict that, because what you see when they're younger really is not necessarily what they look like in high school, because in the emotional disability area, you have just, as you get older, more things emerge, I think. And again, it's not atypical. I just think that we need to watch it, and that we need to look at and respond to, well, what can we do here in our home district? That's what we should always be looking at. What can we do here? And how do we serve our students here in our home district?
So for clarity's sake, when it says out-of-district students,
Yes.
are these students we are sending out of district, or school district sending to us?
No, we are sending them out of district.
I just want that to be clear.
So, and this is not atypical of a school when you see that jump in the high
Correct.
school level. And the social emotional world we're in is not the same one of 10
It's
years
not.
ago.
It really is not.
Without a doubt.
Agreed.
And I want to start my comments by, I definitely believe we need to look at our clinical supports and need some additional services. I'm uncomfortable approving a counselor without hearing the results of an auditor and seeing the plan. The main gist of the plan is that the district have a plan. The main gist of the guidelines is that the district
Great.
have a K-12 articulated plan. For once, the state's being prescriptive but not completely prescriptive. They aren't really saying who has to provide it. So what I want to think about, or have you think about, Natalie, and I'm sure you have, can these numbers be changed if we create a somewhat of a therapeutic social emotional program here, but that will involve a clinician? Maybe the money is better spent in a social worker or in a psychologist who can also do some of the classroom, because a lot of the K-12 classroom counselor things, the specialist has to develop it, but you're going to be training the teachers to implement it. They're really very prescriptive kind of things. So just in thinking, if to look at this slide versus, and along with the K-12, can we get more bang for our money if we look at who we hire?
Well, I'd
I'm
like-
not giving an answer,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
why,
saying to
that's
think
why
about.
we decided to get someone from the
Mhm.
outside to take a look and to make some recommendations.
And along those same lines, I love the character ed program at the elementary school, and right now it's a stipended program. We pay our staff additional money to create it and to make sure it's done with validity. But if we then hire somebody at a significant cost to the district, do we continue to need stipended, and that's, if it was up to me, everybody who would do emotional work would get it, but that's our job on a board, to say, do we have to pay for a stipend position if it's somebody's job? And I think that whatever we do, we need a job description. Because I often hear teachers feel, because they walk into our offices sometimes, they see me sitting and talking to one child, a teacher, what does guidance do anyway? What are they doing anyway? They're not as busy as we are. They're really busy, but I think we need some very clear
Yes.
job descriptions, especially because the job is changing, classroom rule, pre-voc in elementary school, all that crazy things, so.
Great.
So I definitely think, I support adding some personnel, but I'd like some feedback as to
That's why
where do we
that's
get the
why
best bang for the
We're
buck.
supposed to get a report in a couple of weeks, she said.
Excellent.
Yes, and I think that we can certainly address that report and possibly have a presentation on our social emotional strategic plan, both of those.
And even if,
Even to what you're saying, it can't just be done by the clinical staff. Like, it can't be, like, you need your teaching staff.
We are, so just so you know, also, I think about, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe even 50 of our teachers on a Saturday coming up in March. I reached out to a woman who provides mental health training for teachers, and we're hoping that we can do a few rounds of her, but really we needed it done on a weekend. To be able to pull that many teachers out of the classroom would be crazy. So really, so many of our teachers jumped at the opportunity
And about 50 took that.
last time.
is that the
Yeah.
mental health first aid?
The mental health
that,
first aid
uh,
training,
that
correct,
even our
yes.
community
And
members
it's
were invited
phenomenal,
to?
from what I,
Yeah,
it-
I've
it's-
participated in it,
It's a great training, just
Yeah.
really brings a certain level of awareness and strategies, hands-on strategies. So many of our teachers jumped at the opportunity, and I suspect that if we offer it again, they will take, more will take it.
So if our reports are not done in time for budget, we could even, as long as we just have in the budget the amount for a
figures.
person, the exact composition of that person can still be. And I'm not, for all the guidance counselors who might be listening, I am not saying one over the other, just looking at these numbers, what are the roles we're looking for? What's the biggest bang for the buck?
Sure.
And what do our kids need?
What do our kids need?
And I have a more pedantic
Go right ahead.
recommendation on this presentation. the reverse of the red on the black makes it almost impossible to read.
Does it? Okay.
So I would suggest, because if people are gonna try and download these or print these or
I can
anything.
change
from
it
the way-
quickly.
Just change your backgrounds and, you know, and one of the things that I'll be talking very much a lot, that's very elegant the way I put that. With Dr. Luft moving forward is, branding and adherence to branding and consistency in presentations and communications, et cetera, et cetera. So, just a little sneak
I'm
peek.
I'm big on brand, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think the services we provide are great. No question.
Yeah, I
about that.
agree. I think we have a great clinical team. We have some teachers that are just really, so many teachers who are really eager to learn new strategies, learn new techniques in this ever-changing world.
Is this audit, consultant review, whatever it is it going to get to, is it very restricted into what it's looking at, or is it pretty broad? I'm thinking along the lines of, are they going to say, or will they have the ability to tell us that we are not necessarily spending too much in certain areas, but saying this is a program that doesn't exist in most places. There are resources, you know, they're going to obviously tell us what we're lacking and what we could use as a best practice. Are they looking at the flip side as well?
The strengths.
So that we're balanced on making sure that we're you know, appropriately spending in the right areas.
Well, this is not looking at your whole special ed budget. It's
No.
just.
No, this is
No, this is
just
guidance
the
and
counseling
guidance.
piece of it, the school counseling piece of it.
Right, so even in that.
And they
it-
will.
you
Mhm.
know,
I
it's-
think what we're looking for from her and what Jeremy and I and Dr. Wills articulated to her was really, like, what do we do well? What do we do too much of? What do we do too little of? Like, the whole picture, K-12.
And we would deal
Right.
also with these regulations, how.
Right.
How do we
Sure.
implement these new regulations, K-12? And
And implement them
using
in
our
an
resources,
effective-
the current
implement them in an
resources.
effective way. Don't just
Exactly.
play lip
And what do we need
service.
added?
Everybody did this program and it's not going to have any impact. We want results.
Correct.
Right, yeah, I think we talked a lot about moving away from the highly technical things that some guidance counselors do in terms of scheduling and applications, and looking at the position in a more well-rounded approach. Where does it include instructional opportunities? Where does it support the social emotional wellness of students? And what does it look like? So it's not structured in a way where it's really relying on an individual with high level of technical ability to manipulate a social, a student information system, and instead look at the position as a counselor type position where they can support all the needs of students, go into classrooms, work with small groups of students to do more than the scheduling, transcripts, and I know they're really busy doing those things, but those tasks we can maybe find other individuals to assist with, so we could free up our counselors to do more work directly with students.
Well, and I think we have to also look outside of the walls of the buildings. I mean, if you look at, I mean, I keep having school counselors tell me that the ratio is approximately 250 to 1 is a perfect ratio. But we have just slightly over 500 students and 3 guidance counselors here. Now, I'm not saying get rid of the 3rd guidance counselor, but why not use that person? Yes, increase their actual student contact, but maybe they provide some support to the middle school or the elementary school, and look outside of the box or the walls, because those are, I mean, when I send my middle school kids to my high school kids, I know who they're going to struggle with, who, is at risk and is danger, and that communication is key, and I happen to have made some good connection, but it's not as good as being able to walk back and forth.
Right.
So, that we need to look bigger than even just a school. But I definitely support, it's not just the transcripts and the mailing it out at the high school level.
And it's not, for sure. And I think what we're looking to do is really to see, K-12 with all of the new regulations, and more importantly, with our student needs, how do we articulate a program that is proactive.
And just back to special ed spending for a minute, and not even in time for this budget, because I
Sure.
know what we do. Is there a utilization, or do you have the numbers of, are there students that get more than one type of program? Like, can you be in resource room
We do.
and consultant teacher
Yes.
and those kinds of things? So,
I mean, we look to include as many students in a typical environment, in a academically rigorous program. So if a student needs one co-taught class in ELA, but still needs a
Special class
resource
for
room
math or-
for organization or specific reading goals, if that maintains that student in general education, that's what we look to do, is to find that balance. Yeah. Any other questions?
no, thanks.
Thank you.
I do not see Mr. Mikely. What happens now?
So the
We
third
have some.
presentation is going to be our technology budget presentation, and it's going to be made through technology. So Michael couldn't be present here tonight. He is, we had changed the date several times for the
Yes.
meeting. So
This meeting was supposed to be the 21st.
he'll be
but then
presenting
was
it through
the-
a technology source.
I think that's great.
Is he gonna sing it?
That's
No,
what he's
Jeremy's going to
I know that's what he's
sing.
doing now. I
That's
know.
what he's doing right
Well, he's
now.
not singing, he's probably playing
Yeah.
bass, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Michael asked me to stand in for him. He did create a video that we're hoping is going to start playing any second now.
Or we have to increase our technology budget to make sure that.
This is actually
a band-
video.
boy.
a bandwidth
This is
problem.
video, this is not,
So he was originally scheduled to present during a board meeting that was canceled for the snow. So he had a conflict for tonight's meeting, so decided to use technology to present his budget. And then I'd be happy to do my best to answer any questions I can.
Just do his video. It played beautifully today.
Yeah.
It's going to play beautifully.
probably not on this machine though, right?
Wait for it.
Never say
Don't,
never.
don't lose hope.
Let's have some patience.
And what's the show? Hello, Dolly? I've been singing it ever since I heard
He
that
talks
show.
about it during his video.
Hello, Dolly.
Okay.
Looking good.
Hey guys, sorry I can't
Up.
be there with you tonight, but as luck would have it, tonight I'm performing in Hello Dolly in Marist, pretty much as this video is playing. So then I figured, what better way to deliver the technology budget than via technology? So here we go. This year, we're continuing our push, our deep dive into G Suite. Laura Sherwood and Dan Mahoney have been truly instrumental in taking and finding solutions, G Suite solutions, for all of our office needs and all of our instructional needs. And this year, we're continuing our Chromebook integration with our 5th grade and our 6th grade, the 6th grade taking them home. And the feedback continues to be that they're extremely easy to use, with very few distractions, and all the students' work is in one place. And so next year, we're considering expanding that into the 7th grade. This year, we've got Mandarin Chinese in 2 grade levels, the 7th and 8th grade, with 36 students enrolled. And next year, we're planning to expand that into the high school as well. This year, one of the really big projects that we did was VoIP phones across the district. We installed 210 new phones, and they're all Asterisk-based, which is the #1 open source communications toolkit. All of this is hosted on site, and we've got directories on the phone, and we've got one-touch security features. One early quote that we got to performing this work district-wide came in at around $122,000. Using this in-house developed system, we were able to do the entire district for $27,000. Another really big project we did this year using the Smart Schools bond money was that we completely replaced the switches and the wireless access points with Meraki switches and wireless access points. What that gave us was multi-gigabit connectivity without needing to change any of our existing wiring. So we've got 10 gig between each wiring closet and 5 gig to each classroom. What it also gives us is centralized management. We basically get full network visibility on a single screen, or as some people say in the industry, on a single pane of glass. So for some technology in the classroom, in the elementary school, Alessandra Cirillo, she's got some of her fourth graders programming what's called an Edison robot to perform music in a concert. Here's a little video of her kids.
Meet Edison. Edison is our programmable robot that we learned about in technology class. Edison can respond to light and sound and be programmed to do many things. Edison teaches us about STEM topics such as coding and how computers think.
We discovered that Edison can play music. We decided to program him to play the songs that we learned for our January concert. Using sheet music provided by Miss Calhoun, we programmed Edison note by note by using EdScratch, a block programming language that derives from Scratch for Kids.
Here is Edison playing Ode to Joy.
In the middle school, the use of robotics continues with Stephanie Tricala using Cublets to teach kids about how the robots sense things. Students are also getting crafty and building paper circuits. Remember the Edison robot? Well, Stephanie's got her kids also programming the Edison robot. This time using EdBlocks, EdScratch, or EdPython, really expanding and using to the fullest capability of what this Edison robot can do. Students are also using Makey Makey, which is pretty much like a 21st century Tinker toy, to make things like their own Pong game. They even made their own keyboard. In the high school, in Keith Fury's Engineering by Design class, some students built their own infinity mirror. Now what's interesting about this is they had to learn to use new technology to them. Now, we all know that we don't need to tell a kid how to use an iPad or an iPhone, but in this case, the kids had to learn how to use a routing table, and that was new technology. And so using the routing table, they designed, as you can see from these pictures, their own infinity mirror. Now, with regard to staffing, next year will pretty much be the same as this year. You'll notice that we've got 2 BOCES junior computer support specialists. That equals up to 1 FTE. That's because the BOCES techs need to be a shared resource. So we've got 1 for 3 days and another for 2 days. And together, they equal 1 FTE. In terms of the overview of expenses, these are pretty much all typical. Next year, we're going to be investing in more security upgrades, cameras with a higher resolution, a new DVR system is very much needed, and improved access control systems. So as I mentioned before, we're looking to expand the Chromebooks into the 7th grade. So as such, our IPA should be probably somewhere around $200,000. So that would include 1 grade level of Chromebooks and 1 grade level of MacBooks. The 2019-2020 budget impact will be around $42,000. Our aid ratio is about 65%, so the laptop cost after aid is $426, and the Chromebook cost after aid is $101. And this is just to go over the current state of our Smart Schools bond money. we still have about $165, well, really $166,000 left to use, and we're hoping to use some of that toward the security upgrades that we're planning. And thank you for your time. If you've got any questions, please feel free to call me or email me. And have a great night, everyone. Thanks.
That was great.
So I'd be happy to do my best to answer any questions. If not, we can get Mike on the phone, but he's in the pit right now. Yeah.
Only if he sings. Did anybody have any questions? No? Okay,
So
thank you.
I'll just quickly, I just want to recognize some of the individuals within our technology department, having spent the last 10 years either directly or indirectly supervising technology staff. I'm continually amazed by the level of technical ability of the people we have here in this district and their willingness to, if they don't know how to solve a problem, to figure out how to solve a problem and still work on it and still get it to work has been amazing. And projects that in previous lives I would have spent tens of thousands of dollars on integration costs by getting consultants and outside companies to come in and do it. We somehow in-house figure out how to provide those services, both on the instructional side with individuals like Dan and Laura, as well as on the technical side with Matt Brady and Mike Lee and Doug and others. So I did want to point out, I just recently saw them playing around with our new digital walkie-talkies and asked them if they knew what they were doing, joking around, asking if they watched YouTube videos to figure out how to do it. And their answer was essentially, well, that, and we read the manual and figured out how to correct a problem that the company who we purchased them from was unable to fix. So that's just a little example of the level of skill that we have here in the district. So I just wanted to recognize that.
And I read recently that anybody, I think they use the age 19, the birth date of 1975, anybody born after that is a technological native. Everybody born before that is a technological immigrant. I am such a technological immigrant. Watching those little girls do like while they were talking, not paying attention, it's just
Amazing, right?
amazing, and I'm just very impressed. Okie dokie. All right, the next agenda item is to discuss nominating a Putnam Valley resident candidate for the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES trustee seat.
Contacted me that she'd be interested in being the representative on the BOCES board again. Her term is up in June, and she'd like to run again. She needs the board's nomination in order to do that.
And
There
this
is a resolution on the agenda.
And this is, I believe, her third term. This will be her third term or her fourth?
It will be her third.
It might be her third, yeah, right. So, and it's really nice having a resident on the board where we're kept involved. A lot of our students use Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES services. She keeps that in the forefront in our minds as well as keeping us in the minds of BOCES. So, does anybody have any comments or, it's going to be in a resolution then? Does anybody have any
It's on here
comments?
as a resolution.
Any?
No, I was just gonna say, Tina, one of the things that she does, if you go to BOCES or you follow them, is she's gotten IBM to give money towards students' education and that. And
That's great.
she's been very positive about the students. And more than anyone else, she realizes the importance of trying to control the BOCES course. So we, as the whole 18 districts, can use it.
And I think she was a district board member.
Yes, she
So,
was part of our board.
I don't know if all BOCES board members are, but she was a district
she-
board member, so
yes.
she understands the limitations and restrictions and abilities that the districts have, so. Okay, so we'll get to that. Okay, I know we don't have a student representative. Curriculum report, Dr. Luft.
So I just wanted to provide a really quick update on the facilities work that's going on. So we have a middle school steering committee, we're calling user group, that's working on varying designs. They've actually met more than anyone else, given the amount of work that's going on in the middle school. We have one for the elementary school, and we have one for athletics.
So those groups have sort of the first opportunity to work directly with the architects to refine the design, to make sure it meets the needs of our students. From there, those sort of design drawings and renderings are shared with our Facilities Advisory Committee. So that's a larger committee. That committee consists of both district employees as well as community members. So that's a sort of second set of eyes that gets an opportunity to review the renderings and the design drawings and to provide additional feedback. And then we have an administrative group that ultimately weighs the information we got from the groups, balances the costs, the functionality, and ultimately reaches the decision. So it's been a really exciting couple weeks already to really get into. I think we underestimated how much work has to be done after the bond vote. And the first time we met with the architects, they said pretty much all of the work that was done pre-vote represents about 2% of the total design work that goes into the drawings, purposely so because of the expenses that are incurred while doing that design work. So the work will continue throughout the spring. The committees will continue to meet as we go through iteration after iteration. And our hope is to complete that design phase of the project by the end of June. And there'll certainly be opportunities. There's milestones built into that work. We'll provide opportunities for the architects and the construction manager, as well as committee members if they wish, to come present to the Board of Education to make sure you guys see some of the latest and greatest designs, have opportunities to ask questions, and obviously inform decisions. So those milestones are built into the process. So throughout the spring, there'll be opportunities for presentations on that.
Just a summary of some of the wonderful activities we've had at our schools in the last few weeks. The one-act play contest and the actually seeing the plays produced was really remarkable. We had a great crowd, and the plays themselves were really quite unique, quite deep, and actually the sequence of the plays worked very well because we started with some pretty heavy-duty psychological introspection and ended with a very, very funny play. And again, we're all sort of awestruck at the talent of the student writers and the students who acted in the plays as well and gave of their time to do that, gave themselves to these projects that their fellow students had created. It was very exceptional, and it shows what the architecture of a place, this performance space really works in terms of that. So that was Jacqueline Pedotti's play and Bianca Garcia and Caitlin Carroll's plays that were produced. We also had a great works concert that was wonderful. Leonard Bernstein's work, his 100th anniversary, and again, these are special opportunities for our students to perform along with resident performers from the community around us. Tomorrow we'll be seeing the Alice in Wonderland shadow play at the elementary school, and the musical Wizard of Oz is coming up as well. I know that there's been lots of fun at the Pocketbook Bingo fundraiser run by the PTA, and this year Sandy won a pocketbook. Last year it was Jeanette, and they had a very good time at the fundraiser.
For me last year.
Oh, that's right. We also had an English Honor Society ceremony yesterday with what I love about that ceremony now is they have slides of the favorite books and quotes from each of the students who's being inducted and also of the teachers, the staff. So it makes for a very special event. We celebrated the IB authorization, which was a major accomplishment for our high school, and there's a great deal of excitement. There's been a lot of discussion at the schools, posters and student writing on Black History Month in February, and Women's History is coming up this month. Something exciting at the high school also, Andrea Biley, who is our physical education teacher, started a staff wellness activity where teams of our teachers are walking across the United States through their steps. Are you part of that, Dan? I am. You're in a team, all right. So there's a great deal of competitive excitement among the staff about this project, and they're all cheering each other on. It's really, March is one of those months where, people sort of have the March Madness in some way or another. And this is a good activity. I think it's a healthy activity for our staff. They're very excited about it. Our athletic teams did very well this year. They had some disappointments, but I was amazed at the sort of relentless spirit these kids have on the court. I mean, they didn't die, right? They didn't die at the end. They just kept going. And that perseverance and persistence is something, you look for. And so the games were exciting right to the very end. Our cheerleaders are in Rochester tomorrow at the state match. So there's a lot to be grateful for. The 100th Day at the elementary school is another great event. And I ended up meeting a new resident of our community who's quite remarkable man. His name is Joel Polo. And today he's in Milan with his gospel choir that he takes all over the world. And he's a new resident. And I sent information about him to our music department. Very, very interesting. You can look him up on the internet. And he's had quite a fascinating background as well. So today we had to send out a message regarding an internet situation, not from our school, but it's some type of a national or international phenomena that is scary to children, and it's something that, again, this is the dark side of technology, and it's something that does concern us. The other side of it is we had a wonderful presentation at the high school. We'll have this presentation here at our board meeting of a couple of our students wanting to start an esports club. And it's fascinating. I mean, something I would never even think about, but it's a whole different way of thinking about video games. So these students who are involved in that, it turns out, are the ones who are being hired by major technology companies, and a lot of the future careers are involved in this area. So AI, the artificial intelligence. So it's another whole world for us to think about for our students as they develop, and all this robot development is part of that as well.
And I have to say, it's not only that part of it, it's the student voice, like the play. It's listening to students tell you what it is that they need or they want. And even if this doesn't become their career, if they learn to speak up and say what they need and what they want, it will help them no matter what they do. So.
Okay. Do we have anything from the PTA or the PTSA? I'd like to open it up to more public comment on listed agenda items. Then we will move into new business, jumping right to number 2, since we excitedly did number 1 already. Would you like to start, Mr. Smith, since Mr. Ferraro did number 1 before?
All righty. Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Marianne McGee, a grade 6 math and science teacher from the district, effective June 30th, 2019, as per document number 124/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 3.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Carolyn O'Leary, a special education teacher from the district, effective June 30th, 2019, as per document number 125/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Alyssa Tripoli, a reading teacher from the district, effective June 30th, 2019, as per document 126/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 5.
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Danielle Pizzuto, a high school science teacher from the district, effective June 30th, 2019, as per document number 135/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 6.
Resolved to set the following dates for action regarding the 2019-2020 district budget vote and board election. May 7th, 2019 is the final budget hearing, 7 p.m. at the high school cafeteria. May 7th, 2019, voter registration at the high school from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. May 13th, 2019, voter registration at the elementary school from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. May 14th, 2019, voter registration at the high school from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And May 21st, 2019, budget vote and board election at the elementary school from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
Questions or comments? Barbara, you
Just, I was
Yes.
just gonna, oh,
Go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, you
No.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, for the communities, for the board election, there are 2 seats up this year at the board election. And if you're not gonna be around on May 21st, you should apply for an absentee ballot.
And the budget, the final budget hearing, are we gonna do it in the cafeteria, or is it gonna be up here?
We'll have to wait and see. And I think there's, how it could be up here. I don't think the location matters on this.
It will be in the high school.
It'll be in the high
Then,
school.
yeah, if we take that out, then it wouldn't confuse.
Right,
Okay.
right, because that's right, it's always been in there because
Right.
it's always where our board meetings were. And this is the, after we adopt a budget. What is-
Correct.
And what is the date? I mean, I don't expect any more snow. What is, tomorrow is March. What is the date that our budget has to be adopted by, and do we anticipate it being adopted by?
May 7th is the final budget hearing. The budget will be adopted in April.
Right, but what's the day? I'm just curious, when will our budget be, so people can come to meetings? Do we know about?
We're hoping it's the first weekend.
Well, there'll be a full budget presentation next
Okay.
Thursday
Yes.
evening, March 7th. That'll be the first full
Money
budget
with the money.
presentation. Then there'll be time for another,
Comments and another
presentation or
Or two.
a
we
more,
change
you know,
minds.
advanced presentation of it. And then the adoption of the budget will happen in
Okay.
April. I don't have the exact date with me.
We're hoping that the board adopts the budget April 11th,
Okay,
but not later than April 23rd.
okay, so that gives us time, if
Oh, yeah.
there's inclement weather,
It's
to
not
more
too
than
late,
1 or
it's
2
April.
budget board meetings for people to talk about it? Okay,
Yes.
great. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7. I've lost track.
Resolved to approve the notice of public budget hearing, budget vote, and election for the Putnam Valley Central School District as per document number 127/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8.
Resolved to authorize the clerk of the district to arrange and enter into contracts for voting machines, privacy booths, poll books, to have the necessary ballots printed, and to make other arrangements for the district budget vote and board elections scheduled for May 21st, 2019, as are necessary and appropriate. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 9.
Resolved to nominate Tina McKay as candidate for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2022 for the Board of Cooperative Educational Services for Putnam and Northern Westchester.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 10.
Whereas the education law provides that the tax collector shall be relieved of responsibility for the uncollected portion of the tax list when a complete list of the delinquent taxed items have been certified to the Board of Education, and since the collector has affixed an affidavit to such statement and has filed a statement accounting for the handling of the tax warrant, therefore, be it resolved that the board accept the report of the tax collector as per document number 133/19, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting, and having determined that the collector has accounted for the full amount of the tax warrant, direct that the lists of the delinquent tax items with the addition of the 2% penalty be certified to the office of the county treasurer and/or other enforcement officer. And it is further directed that the tax warrant, tax roll, and the tax collector's copies of the tax receipts be placed on file.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Moving on to the consent agenda. Item number 1.
Resolved to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 9 as presented to the board at this meeting.
Second,
Questions or comments?
we're approving CSE, CPSE placements. We're approving additional assignments for 3 staff members. In addition to their regular work, 2 are going to be tutoring children with special needs, and 1 is serving additional service as a monitor. We're approving a payment for Matt Mello for all his work that he did on the IB program, the International Baccalaureate Program. We're accepting a generous donation of $500 from the Educational Alliance Group of ExxonMobil to be used as the high school, and a generous donation from Dr. Franz Wales, which helped pay for the IB, International Baccalaureate celebration. We're approving an educational contract for Eastchester Central Schools for one of our students with special needs who attends their middle school during the summer. We're approving a health and welfare contract for students who attend private schools in other school districts. The Harrison School District has 1 student. The Somers School District has 17 students. And we're approving the superintendent to enter into a contract with a consulting firm to assist us with our whole going on with our transportation program. And we're approving additions to the substitute tutor list.
All in favor? Aye. I'd like to open it up to public comment on any topic.
Okay, I had a list.
I was going to
I
ask
have
you
a
people
list.
next.
Okay, so I got a call the other day from the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association asking if I would be a member of their board. We don't have to do anything, it doesn't have to be approved, I don't have to run, whatever. They haven't had anybody from Putnam in a long time, it's mostly Lower Westchester. So I said yes. I don't know how to say no.
I'm so glad.
I do provide counseling services free of charge for overcommitment issues. I think that's great.
So I talked to, I think, Natalie before. New York State School Boards Association is joining with Urban Educational Leaders to sponsor an Equity and Opportunity for Every Student conference at Teachers College at Columbia University on Thursday, May 2nd, which is a day. I already have 2 commitments, but I'm going to see if I can work them out just because I think this would be interesting. But I think if there's anybody, I think somebody should go, for sure. And the last thing, when Dr. Luft and I went to the annual convention this year in October, it was in New York, there were all these pictures they used while we were waiting for presentations and stuff, all these students doing great things in all these other schools, and none of Putnam Valley. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, why aren't we there? So I did see in the latest board docs paper, a call for student talent. Unfortunately, this year, the convention is in Rochester in October, but they're looking for, they're giving schools 3 opportunities. 1, to demonstrate your district's creative programs with a free student booth, but you're gonna have to pay for your students to go. Number 2, to entertain with instrumental or vocal student performing groups. I think we have some amazing musical talent in Putnam Valley. And although, again, Rochester's far, I do think that that's something to think about. Last, send us photos of your school community in action, and I'd really like Putnam Valley
Some great photos.
to be there. And so there's a visit convention, NYSBA.org, but I do think if we ask maybe the principals in the buildings and we can get some pictures of kids doing some of our amazing stuff and send them to them, at least if we're not there, there will be Putnam Valley kids there.
And Jeannie Denike has a communication role in the district. She can certainly work with the principals to do that.
So I'll ask Jeannie about
I
that?
would say
Jeannie
that's
would
the
be
best
the-
person
yeah.
to ask.
All right.
Okay, that was a very good extra thing. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, then I would like resolve to convene an executive session for one matter of pending litigation and to discuss one matter made exempt under federal law, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, after which time no further business will be conducted.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations again, Dr. Luft, and stay tuned for future celebrations for Dr. Wills, and good night, everybody.